Don't be afraid of the dark. Just relax and let the darkness fall over you.
Welcome to Afraidish, a podcast where every 4 episodes we venture into a new state and take a deep dive into the history and paranormal while enjoying some tasty adult beverages. From ghost sightings to hauntings, urban legends and cryptids, let's get weird and afraid-ish together. Hi, I'm Paul.
And I'm Ashley.
And hello and welcome to episode 15 or episode 3 of Arkansas.
Woohoo!
Yay! We've done a lot since our last episode.
Yeah, we have.
We went to Texas.
Yeah. I was like, are you really having a hard time?
No, I'm trying to think of everything we actually did.
We went to Texas.
Yeah, we went to Abilene and visited my sister and watched my niece graduate
high school.
Yeah. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. It was a late night graduation.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, they had it at like 8:30 at night.
Because they were doing it outdoors in like a football stadium.
Yeah, and during the day it was like 100 degrees, which...
Yeah.
Understandably. And then we left at like 5 o'clock the next morning to come back home.
Yeah, that was rough.
We stayed a few days. We got to visit...
We went to the zoo.
Yes, that was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
We're kind of not a fan of zoos, but the Abilene Zoo takes in... what am I trying to say? Animals that need help.
Rehabilitation?
Yeah, rehabilitation. Duh.
Okay.
Yeah, it's basically a huge rehab center and zoo. They have a lot of really... They do a good... They do a...
Good job?
They do a lot of good stuff.
Good stuff.
Anyways, so we did that, and
we went to the... I want to say Swanson, but that's not it.
Swenson House. While down there, it's a historical house. Apparently, the guy who built it bought out the electric company, and he supplied electricity throughout the whole town.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Must be nice to have that kind of dough.
Yeah. Anyways, that'll probably end up being on an episode.
Yeah.
So that'll be a lot of fun. We've got tons of pictures from there.
Oh my god, yeah.
And the history is pretty amazing.
Yeah. Spirit activity is pretty up there too.
Yeah.
Gotta say. Your niece and I both had some experiences.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if your sister said she had experiences or if she was just... I don't remember. I was a little...
Yeah. There was a few locations upstairs where it felt kind of like... I don't know. It's pretty weird.
Someone was curious about why we were going through their belongings.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way. Nothing bad at all. Not even for a second. It was just like you just constantly felt like you were being watched.
Curiosity, I guess.
Yeah. Like they were like, what are you doing in my house? Can I help you?
All right. Yeah, let's not talk too much about that.
Sorry.
It's gonna be a whole episode, hopefully. What else did we do? We went to see Dan Cummins.
Yeah.
At the Blue Room Comedy Club. It was a lot of fun.
It was fun.
Him and Lindsay are doing some amazing stuff on their podcast, so let's go ahead and get into it, I guess.
All right.
Here are another 5 fun facts about Arkansas. All right. Number 1. In 1935, Blackie Donnelly invented the ever-popular tabletop condiment, cheese dip.
Like, what kind of cheese dip are we talking here? Are we talking Cheese Whiz cheese dip, or are we talking, like, real cheese dip?
Well, Blackie was the original owner and proprietor of the famous Arkansas chain Mexico Chiquito. Cheese dip is so prevalent in Arkansas that local filmmaker Nick Rogers created a documentary about the origins and impact of cheese dip on the state titled In Queso Forever, a movie about queso dip.
Oh my god. We have to watch that.
Yeah. The documentary was a smash hit, at least locally, with Nick Rogers creating the World Cheese Dip Championship.
Is it a championship of eating cheese dip or making cheese dip? Because either way, I'm in.
Not sure. Either way, it'd be interesting.
In the words of Liz Lemon, I want to go to there.
I want to go to there. Number 2. Cheese dogs were created in Little Rock at the Finkbeiner Meat Packing Company in 1956 by inserting cheese into the center of a hot dog.
No. No. I have very vivid memories of eating cheese-filled hot dogs as a child, and they were never good.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, move on.
Number 3. In 1876, 2 Fayetteville newspaper editors had a street fight to settle their differences. The loser had to sell his paper and leave town, which he did.
I mean, that's a gentleman's word. I don't know. My brain's like...
It's a pretty cool duel.
Was it a duel or was it a street fight?
It was a street fight, but like...
So like cuffs to fist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fisticuffs.
Yeah. Number 4. Every November since 1936, the city of Stuttgart has hosted its World Championship Duck Calling Contest, the largest ever organized recognition of aptitude in the field of fowl mimicry.
I'm assuming that you're using your own voice talents, not like duck commander calls.
I don't know.
I would hope so, because I mean, honestly, like, come on.
Well, probably the best at who can use a duck call. Who knows? It's an interesting fact.
I'm just like, I don't know. I overthink things. It's a problem.
It's fine. Number 5. According to Arkansas movie buffs, only one film shot and set in the state has ever earned an Academy Award. Billy Bob Thornton's Sling Blade, which won the Best Adapted Screenplay Oscar.
Wow.
I love that movie. It's a good movie.
I have seen that movie, but it was a very long time ago.
Yeah. It's an older movie. All right, let's get into what we're drinking today. When we went to Abilene, we went to a local brewery down there.
Yeah. Grain Theory.
Grain Theory.
That's what I said.
I thought you said green.
Grain
Theory.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past me to say Green Theory.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's not the name of a dispensary, it needs to be.
Green Theory. The next dispensary. No, this place is called Grain Theory.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
And I have a beer I got there. It's called Cowboy Cookie. And it's a brown ale.
Yeah.
And let's see.
You tasted a sample of it. I didn't taste this one. Can I have a sip?
Yeah, it actually tastes like cookies.
I wouldn't say that.
I mean, well, so the fresher stuff I tasted at the brewery actually tasted like
I taste like it is it's got that sweetness.
Yeah.
You wouldn't fool the Cookie Monster with that. I'm just saying. It's not bad.
No.
It's not bad.
I'm not a fan of ales very much, but I am a fan of one from
Great Escape?
Great Escape
Beer
Works. Yeah. Only one from there, and then this one. Like any IPAs I can't do.
Yeah. I had a Mexican lager at Grain Theory.
That's good, and we have that.
It was very delicious.
We have that in the fridge too. So.
I am very much, if I'm going to drink a beer, it's usually got to be a lager.
Yeah.
I can't do very many others. But I am actually drinking a whiskey that we got down in that I got down in Texas. Paul doesn't like whiskey.
Yeah.
We were at your sister's house, and she made us have a taste of this whiskey. The one that she had us taste had cream in it, though. It was creamy.
That wasn't too bad.
It was, I don't like creamy liqueurs very much. Like, that's very much like a Christmas morning and coffee kind of thing once in a while. So they also had that same variety in just a plain whiskey. It's pecan praline, and it is flippin' delicious. I'm drinking it in a Dr. Pepper Zero right now.
Nice.
It's so good.
All right, let's get into it.
All right.
So we kind of mentioned in some of our episodes about, houses or some kind of buildings being built on or near Native American burial grounds.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's common to find out something that has been built or on or near areas once occupied by Native Americans, because that's basically all of America.
Turtle Island, but yes.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about what has happened since our ancestors got here, I'm not surprised that anything would be cursed. Just thinking about it, but
So that comes to my story.
Okay. I kind of figured.
Although my story isn't about, Native American burial grounds, it is about an immense ceremonial complex called the Toltec Mounds Archaeological State Park in Scott, Arkansas.
Yes, I've heard of this.
I have not, and it just sounded very interesting, so...
Well, you know me and my YouTubes.
Yeah.
If there's an archaeologist on YouTube, I'd probably watch them.
So, according to archaeologists and anthropologists, the Toltec Mounds site was a vast complex of 18 mounds surrounded by an 8 to 10 foot tall earthen embankment. The mounds were built next to an oxbow lake separated from the Arkansas River thousands of years ago. It's now called Mound Lake.
Our ancestors were great at naming things.
Yeah. This 100-acre area was a ceremonial, religious, social, and governmental complex inhabited between 650 CE and 1500 CE. This era was in American prehistoric times, spanning from the late woodland through the early Mississippian periods.
Yes.
Yeah. Archaeologists believe the mounds were built solely using manual labor. They most likely built them hauling one bucket of dirt at a time.
I mean, how would you expect a prehistoric group of people to build something?
Yeah, kind of like...
they had machines.
Some say, that's how Egyptians built the pyramids.
With buckets of... Yeah, hauling
buckets at a time. Out of the 18 mounds, there are only 3 remaining.
Aww.
The tallest being 49 feet high, the second at 39 feet, and the third at 13 and a half feet.
Is this story going to make me mad?
Am
I going to get real mad?
I mean...
At white people. I'm going to get mad at white people.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. White people being mad at white people for stupid shit like this, yeah.
I mean... Call me woke. I don't care.
Excavations across the site have found that several mounds were explicitly constructed to align with solar cycles. These cycles were significant in both ceremonial rituals and farming practices.
Yeah.
Certain mounds were positioned to line up with the sun on the horizon at sunrise and sunset on the equinoxes and solstices.
It's amazing. And I want to phrase this delicately, because I'm certainly not trying to diminish any culture at all, period. But it is just amazing to me how there are so many similarities across cultures, across continents, across oceans. So many cultures aligned their stuff with specifically the sun on the equinoxes. They kind of had to make their food, grow crops and stuff. Right, keeping track of time, but also I don't know. To me, it's just a warm, comforting feeling. We all care about the same shit. We all have the same wants, desires, and fears, to be fed and happy and safe.
Yeah.
And that's kind of one of those things that, I don't know, for me, kind of reminds me that borders are fake.
Yeah.
And race is a social construct.
Pretty much.
I don't know.
Yeah. So, who could have constructed the mounds? Archaeologists and anthropologists have been trying to figure that out for years. At first, people thought it was the Toltec or Aztec tribes from Mexico.
It's pretty far north.
Yeah, I mean, but scientific studies quickly ruled them out. French hunters and settlers in the Arkansas River Valley knew about the existence of the mounds in the late 18th century and early 19th century. The, quote, mound people identity remained a mystery for several more decades. In 1848, the site was purchased by Mary Eliza Knapp and her first husband, William P. Officer. Soon after, the mounds were called the Knapp Mounds.
Knapp Mounds?
Knapp, Knapp, that was her last
Knapp.
name. Yeah, Knapp Mounds. In 1876, Mrs. Knapp contacted the Smithsonian Institute, and soon after they sent a team of scientists to explore the site. In 1878, an article about the mounds was published in the Smithsonian. In 1879 and again in 1882, archaeologists from the Peabody Museum of Harvard University and the Bureau of Ethnology explored the site. They failed to find any evidence or clues to identify the mound people. In 1883, the Bureau of Ethnology provided evidence from digs that established that the mounds were not built by the Mexican Toltec or Aztec tribes as commonly thought, but were built by prehistoric Native American tribes. For almost the next 100 years, interest in the site started to wane. Settlers began to inhabit and plow the fertile surrounding area. The height of most of the mounds was gradually reduced.
Of course.
In the 1960s, before the historical and cultural significance of the site was realized and acknowledged, most of the mounds were deliberately leveled. The Knapp family named the local railway station Toltec after the railroad line was built near the site. In 1966, archaeologists from the University of Arkansas excavated the mound site. They discovered pottery samples and stone tools to estimate when the mounds had been built and inhabited. The team also solved the mystery of who the prehistoric people were who inhabited and built the mounds.
Okay.
They were the little-known Plum Bayou culture of pre-Columbian Native Americans who lived in eastern and central Arkansas from around 650 CE to 1050 CE.
Okay.
On January 12th, 1973, the Toltec Mound site was placed on the National Register of Historic Places. On June 2nd, 1978, the site was designated a National Historic Landmark. In 1975, the Arkansas Department of Parks and Tourism purchased the site. And in 1980, the site was opened as a state park. Officials at the State Parks Department knew the name Toltec was incorrect, but established the state park in that name because it had been commonly known as such for generations.
I mean, why correct historical inaccuracies if it's not profitable?
Yeah, that's crazy. This is only one of 2 state parks that partner with the Arkansas Archaeological Survey, in which full-time archaeologists manage the labs.
Okay.
So this is basically an ongoing archaeological site.
Okay.
Which is pretty cool because you get to learn more as you dig. I mean, they're pretty careful.
And modern archaeologists are far more ethical.
Yes.
Than they were. There's an archaeologist that I follow on YouTube. His name is Nate. I always say his last name wrong. Folsom or something along those lines. And he is an archaeologist himself, but he likes to say that early archaeology was more grave robbing, especially when it comes to early American archaeology. And and just the fetishization of the indigenous peoples whom we were simultaneously eradicating from existence, we were also intrigued by their trinkets and things, you know.
And depending how rich you were, you get to take that shit home.
Exactly. Which most archaeologists, or in Europe they were called antiquarians, were wealthy men.
Oh, yeah.
Not to get too far off topic, but I just watched a video about the guy that claimed to discover the lost city of Troy while simultaneously destroying what was left of the lost city of Troy, even though he did not discover it. But he's the one, he was the loudest, so he's the one who's associated the most with it, even though he did the most damage. Yeah. It's like shit like that. Like, he had money and could do whatever the fuck he wanted. He stole so much. But anyway, that's just fucking white men, man.
Fucking rich white people.
Sorry.
Anyways. The state archaeologists unearth young and old artifacts that tell us about the people who lived there. Their job tasks include anything from site surveys, artifact identification, mapping, botanical research, and much more.
Okay.
One of the most important archaeological evidence they find is not in the soil, but the soil itself.
Oh.
The type of soil, density, and color sometimes tell more of a tale than artifacts.
Like what was planted and...
Yeah, like...
I'm about to get real nerdy right now. Like,
one example of importance is that archaeologists can see where structures once stood because of how wooden posts decompose and leave different color circles of soil.
Yeah.
So that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
I think that's very fascinating.
Yeah, they can find, like, they can see where buildings were.
Yeah.
Like, again, not to be too Eurocentric, but I mean, what do we know? What culture do we know the most about? Our own.
Yeah.
Over in Europe, there's a lot of like wood hinges and things that they have discovered through that same research. Yeah. It's super fascinating.
Most people think archaeologists only find information from arrowheads, pottery, and other stone tools at Native American sites. However, unexpected artifacts found at the Toltec Mounds site tell us even more about who lived there. Quartz crystal is no stranger to Arkansas in that they find a lot of it on the site, but they find it in the western side of the state. They find quartz pieces and crystal arrowheads on display at the mound site in the museum. There's a nice little museum on the site that has all the artifacts and stuff that they find. So basically, what they're saying is quartz crystal comes from the other side of the state than where the mounds are. So the people, the Plum Bayous went across state to grab the quartz, or they traded with whatever community. As a matter of fact, I'm about to tell you.
Sorry. Spoilers.
If I would read further, it must have been an essential piece for them to take the time to travel the distance to get the quartz and then shape points out of this tough material. Other interesting archaeological... Oh my god, I can't even say that word. Other interesting archaeological finds are bits of copper from the Great Lakes region and conch shells from the Gulf of Mexico.
Oh my god, I fucking love...
So I've heard a lot about the Great Lakes copper and all that stuff. So
yeah, I love Lake Superior copper. It's found on Lake Superior.
Yeah,
and it is one of the purest forms of copper. In fact, there's like this huge controversy where people, certain groups of people that are incorrect, think that some of the copper from the Bronze Age in Europe was Lake Superior copper, but you can tell that it's not because European copper requires a higher temperature to melt it and like prepare it, whereas Lake Superior copper, it can pretty much be handled, like you can just hammer it, but a lot of times it is melted and like molded and cast, you know. So I don't know. I have several chunks of Lake Superior copper because I love it so much.
Yeah. Other interesting archaeological finds are a bit... Oh, shit. I already heard that. This tells us that the Plum Bayou people must have traded or traveled great distances. Visitors can also view each of these artifacts in the park museum. And something I didn't write down is so the caretakers, one of the first caretakers that mowed it and took care of the land, lives near there. He retired, and his son does it now. But what they did is they have a special riding lawnmower. It's lightweight, and to keep the mounds from collapsing, they take this light mower and they go round, like spiral up it to mow it. It's really fascinating. I watched a little video.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're interested in watching it, just YouTube Toltec Mounds Archaeological State Park, and you'll see little videos of
You
like
put
that.
a link.
Yes,
in the
I'll put a
show
link.
notes.
Yeah, I'll do that. All right, and now for some hauntings.
Okay.
Locals sometimes refer to the complex as the Stonehenge of Arkansas, since it was widely believed that the complex was used as a ceremonial site. It naturally has a reputation for haunted ghost stories.
Yeah.
The biggest mystery of the complex is the sudden disappearance of the Plum Bayou culture around 1050 CE. What did I think I messed in the beginning.
You said 15.
Yeah, I don't. Okay, yeah, that's a mistype. Let me retract what I said earlier.
Was it occupied by another group of people?
No, it was occupied by the Plum Bayous from 650 CE to 1050 CE, not 1500 CE. Okay. I'm sorry. I think that was one mistake up there. So
that's okay.
650 CE to 1050 CE. And then they just disappeared around 1050.
And nobody else occupied that site at any point before Columbus?
Not as far as they can tell.
Okay.
I mean, like I said, they're still doing some digs and stuff. So, okay, yep. And it remains a mystery why they abandoned this site and where they went. Nobody knows.
I mean, not to be Debbie Downer or anything. There's plenty of practical reasons why sites are abandoned by cultures across the world. Climate change, being a big factor, or just humans have only been sedentary like we are for a very short period of this great span of our history. You moved when resources started drying up, or if there was another culture that you intermingled with and moved on with them. Who knows, really? Yeah.
And experts don't know if there are any Plum Bayou culture Native American descendants, and they can't explain why the unique traits of this culture simply ceased to exist. The captivating mystery of an entire culture's disappearance automatically creates a haunting aura around the Toltec Mounds. Lights and orbs are seen off in the woods close to the site by tourists and visitors. Some visitors report feeling like someone was watching them as they walked the trails in the park, because there were 2 trails that you could take to walk
hiking trails.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Homeowners that live near the park report seeing ghostly apparitions of ancient people or mist-like manifestations on the park grounds. The same neighbors also report hearing loud footsteps on the park grounds at night.
How close are these houses to the park grounds?
I think they're pretty close. I mean, they're off the property. I don't know.
So it's developed kind of right up to it. Oh,
pretty much.
Well, that's
I think
a fucking bummer.
Yeah. Strange chanting has been heard coming from the mounds. The Spirit Seekers, Inc., a paranormal group, conducted at least one investigation at the Toltec Mound site. According to some compelling EVPs caught by the group, spiritual activity is pretty high there. Museum staff has reported seeing a little girl running and laughing in the museum. Which, I mean, little girl could be lost, or if you definitely know that there's no lost little girl, then you got a spirit on your hands.
Yeah,
I mean. So, if you visited the Toltec Mounds Archaeological State Park and saw something that wasn't there, would it make you afraid-ish?
Maybe. I don't know. You never know until you're there.
Yeah.
I have yet to actually be, like, afraid in the presence of spirits. It's just like, well, there's somebody that I can't see. It's unnerving, sure, but it's not. I've never been like, I gotta get, well, that's a lie. There have been places where I've felt like I have to get out of there, but I leave.
Yeah.
I don't stick around. And I'm usually up to no good when, it hasn't happened in a long time. Not since I was a kid.
Yeah.
But.
So yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. I watched some videos that were pretty cool.
Yeah.
The park rangers are very, oh my God, my mind's blank.
I hope you're about to say they're very respectful.
Well, they're very respectful and they're very educated.
Educated, okay.
And
knowledgeable.
They're very knowledgeable, and it's pretty cool to watch these little videos and to see the actual mounds. It's pretty cool.
How far away is it from here? Would that be like a day trip or?
Possibly, yeah.
What's it called, Toltec?
Toltec Mounds in Scott, Arkansas.
Can we just not like?
What?
Just naming things incorrectly just because it's easy. Like, that's just so fucking frustrating.
Yeah, I know.
It's 11:11.
It is.
It's 4 hours and 14 minutes by car.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's right outside Little Rock.
Yeah,
Okay.
And I do have more stories.
Okay. I have ears.
Okay. Now let's descend into some urban legends about the natural steps in Arkansas. Like any other state, Arkansas has its fair share of legends and lore. However, one of the state's most often repeated ghost stories doesn't involve an old building or graveyard. Instead, it's centered around a vast sandstone formation, the natural steps.
Well, duh, because it's fucking sandstone.
Yeah.
Sandstone and limestone. I said samstone.
Sandstone. And you're kind of going to be pissed about, white people in this one too.
Oh, great. Yay. I mean, we're just something else.
People like to be destructive. That's all I'm going to say.
Because it's not important to them, so why should they care?
Yeah.
Because it's not their culture.
A unique geologic formation, the natural steps are located about 20 miles northwest of Little Rock, along the banks of the Arkansas River. The formation consists of two parallel sandstone walls joined by, quote, steps.
Okay.
It's hard to miss, and it's long served as a landmark for boaters traveling the river. There's more to the natural steps than their unique appearance, though. For instance, they're rich in Native American history. In 1932, the University of Arkansas performed an archaeological survey of the area near the steps. The team discovered 57 burial mounds.
Wow.
Which contained pottery from the Quapaw and Caddo tribes. However, exactly how many Native American tribes inhabited the area remains unclear, or in what order. Spanish and then American settlers arrived in the area by the mid to late 1700s. Eventually, the natural steps were the focal point of a town by the same name.
Okay.
Natural Steps started as a small farming community, but quickly grew into a bustling town with many businesses. As the town grew, so did the popularity of its namesake formation. The town swelled and shrunk during this century. The Baptist Church, established in 1913 and later rebuilt, cemetery and Maynard House are all that remain of the original community. In the 1820s, the natural steps were a popular detour for those visiting nearby Pinnacle Mountain, And as steamboat travel increased, the formation grew into a landing port.
Okay.
By 1849, the Natural Steps received 15 to 20 steamboat arrivals and departures weekly.
Oh, yay. High foot traffic.
Yeah. The Natural Steps aren't just historically significant, though. They've long been linked to strange stories and spooky occurrences. You're going to love this. According to legend, covert bushwhackers and later on KKK clan members met at the steps to plot their evil doings. What's more, buildings and structures in the area tended to, quote, disappear. For instance, in 1821, a group of residents discovered an old fort and several artifacts. Eventually, though, the fort could no longer be located. I don't understand. I don't know if they got drunk and just like...
Repeat, who found it? Did you say?
A group of residents that lived there.
A group of residents, okay.
Yeah, they discovered the old fort.
So were these like ne'er-do-well kids that were out?
Who knows? Probably
drugged up and were like, we found an old fort, and it was maybe like a campsite or something.
and then you just go a mile one way and it's there.
Right, like, or who fucking knows?
Who knows?
I don't know.
Like I said, this is an urban legend.
Right.
Another legend tells of phantom soldiers searching the steps for sunken treasure. The story goes that a group of Confederate soldiers died while transporting a considerable sum of gold via a gunboat. In danger of being seized by Union forces, the Confederate soldiers came up with a plan to sink the boat near the Natural Steps and return later to retrieve the gold. Unfortunately, the soldiers died while attempting to sink the ship. According to legend, the men rise from their watery grave on moonlit nights, form a single line, and march the short distance between the riverbank and the steps. In the late 19th century, a gold coin was discovered on the Natural Steps, only adding to the legend's credibility. By the 1940s, residents began dynamiting the formation, looking for the long-lost gold. And no treasure has ever been found. And in the process, a portion of the Natural Steps was permanently destroyed. Because, greedy people.
Right.
In the late 1800s, the Natural Steps riverbank was center stage in the Battle of Palermo, part of the Brooks-Baxter War. Brooks loyalists intercepted a passing flatboat delivering arms. The boat's captain, pilot, and a rifleman were killed. According to local historians, and by that I mean the seasoned elders that live in the area, Jesse James and his gang spent the night in a nearby log house in preparations for robbing a stagecoach in Benton.
Did the log house disappear afterwards?
Probably. Who knows? Maybe Jesse James stole it.
No, I just... Because you said that, like, buildings in the area tend to disappear.
Yeah. That's crazy. The woman in white is perhaps the most notorious ghost associated with the Natural Steps.
Is she looking for her lost baby?
Her lost lover.
Aww.
It's always a woman in white, woman in blue, a woman in whatever. Anyways, Martha Sanders, a.k.a. the woman in white, took her life by jumping from the Natural Steps. As the story goes, Martha and her beau, Gustavus Sanders, were married at the top of the Natural Steps in 1880. Sadly, her bliss was short-lived as Gustavus... Am I saying that right?
I don't know.
Gustavus. He's French, so...
Oh, fuck.
Gustavus.
Probably Gustavo. That there's silent. Like half of the letters in that are gonna be silent,
Gustavo,
and the ones that aren't silent are gonna make a sound that they don't normally make in English. The French is French is a beautiful language, but I do not understand it.
Anyways, it's Gustavus or Gustavo.
Something.
Anyways, fell ill and passed away just days later.
There is you can Google names and Google will tell you how to pronounce it.
I know that. Maybe I should do that real quick.
All
right, so I just Googled it, and it is pronounced Gustavus. Anyways.
One of those rare French words where every letter is pronounced.
Unable to cope, Martha returned to the site of her nuptials and leapt to her death. Recently, numerous people have reported seeing a phantom bride, or the woman in white, as she's more commonly known.
I mean, that's sad. If that's true, that's sad.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of women did that a long time ago whenever their, husbands or boyfriends died in war and stuff. Sad.
But a lot of them also didn't. Because we don't need a man to define us.
If you saw the woman in white strolling near the natural steps, would it make you afraid-ish?
No, I'd probably tell her to go take her fine haunt ass out and go find her a real man.
That's right. Anyways, so I've got one last story.
Okay.
So I know what you think about religion, what I think about religion, and specifically Christianity. Mm-hmm. We're not religious at all, by the way. We might be a little spiritual, but we don't.
Yes.
We don't have a definitive religion.
I think that the difference between spirituality and religion is one is compulsory.
Right.
And one is truth.
Right.
And I will let the audience
figure that
out.
So, in saying that...
And by truth, I mean, like, true for you. Like,
yeah.
Everyone's
What's your
truth is different.
Basically.
Again, call me woke.
So, in saying that, how do you feel about demonic possessions?
I think it's bullshit.
So...
One man's demon is another man's god. Prove me wrong.
So, I know most instances it's people struggling with mental health.
I wouldn't even go that far.
In some cases, yes.
I think a lot of it's propaganda, mostly by the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
It's all urban legend.
Speaking of the Catholic Church, that's why the Catholic Church has people evaluated before performing exorcisms now. No priest is allowed to perform an exorcism without having the person evaluated,
okay,
by a psychologist.
Progress, I guess.
Maybe. Anyways, our next story is a personal story from an anonymous listener. They gave me permission to correct grammar and redact names. And I know this person, so I'm not going to,
Yes.
Anyways.
Sensitive information has been redacted or changed for privacy purposes.
Yes. It's a very interesting story. I'll let you know my thoughts at the end.
Okay. Tell the story.
All right, here we go. It was around 1980. I was about 13 to 14 years old. We lived in a little white 3-bedroom house. Even though I hated the color pink, for some stupid reason, I always wanted a pink room. So when we moved into that house, I was kind of excited. I had to share a room and even a bed with my sister. She was and still is an odd person. Strange things started happening in my pink bedroom. My sister started checking out books about witchcraft from the library. She started acting even weirder. She did some green acid. That's acid that's not ready yet. She freaked out and went after my mom with a knife.
Oof.
I tried to leave the house, and my dad chased her to our bedroom. She kept screaming, so I jumped on the bed, ran across, and punched her, knocking her out. My dad started shouting, saying I had killed her. He called the police, and they got there with an ambulance. They said I saved her life because she would have been dead within 15 minutes if she had left the house. So I don't know. I don't understand what... Anyways, as time went on, creepy things started happening at night. She got even more psycho. I would lay awake listening to her talk in her sleep. One night, I finally fell asleep. I woke up with my sister leaning over me. She had a metal barber comb. She had sharpened the end and had it against my throat. I kicked her off the bed and went to tell my mom. Things were quiet in my room for a while. Then one night, I was lying awake. I felt someone lean over me. I thought I yelled out loud, "Mom, is that you?" But I didn't. No one heard me screaming. I wasn't making a sound, and it felt like I was paralyzed. Then whatever was leaning over me just vanished. The following day, I told my mom what had happened. She said I was probably just dreaming.
Sleep paralysis?
Sleep paralysis, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Nothing happened to me after that night. Not sure if anything happened to my sister. If anything did happen, she didn't say anything. One evening, we found an old cassette recorder. My sister and I were taping ourselves singing and wasting time. Then she sat down by the window where our dog was chained up and made weird noises. I left the room for a little while, and when I came back to the room, she played the tape. It was a scary growl and a little girl's voice that said, "What was that?" My sister swore it was the dog. I took it to my mom and had her listen to it. She thought it was my voice. I told her it couldn't have been because I was in her room talking to her. My sister started making growling noises, and her eyes rolled into the back of her head. For some reason, my oldest brother was there. He was becoming a preacher at the time. He grabbed her, put her on the floor, and started praying for her. We all made fun of this in the movie, The Exorcist. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I would have made fun of it when my brother did it. The green puke really didn't happen, like in the movie. The only thing different was the climbing on the ceiling and turning her head around in circles. The freaky voices really are true. My dad was freaking out about everything. He was standing at the front door when it was done. Then all of a sudden, the screen door blew open, and so did the gate, and there was nobody there. I don't think I have ever been that scared in my life. Strange things kept happening in my room, so I slept on the couch. A few days later, my brother pulled up the carpet in my bedroom. Under the carpet was what my mom called Satan's pentagram. He had heard that the people who used to live there were doing satanic rituals. To be honest, I don't remember what happened after that. Well, thinking about this is pretty freaky on its own because I don't remember anything after that night in the room. Maybe I just slept on the couch all the time after that. I'm not sure. But I think there are a lot of haunted houses in the world, so to speak, because we lived in a few of them. But that's the end of that story. My sister is still evil, and my brother has become an alcoholic. And that's the end of that story. So, what are your thoughts?
Okay, so I will say this. While I do firmly stand behind my original statement, one man's demon is another man's god.
Right.
There are, just as there are different types of humans, there are different types of spirits. We'll just use that as a blanket term. Some are good, some are neutral, some are evil, just like with human beings. Well, I would never go so far as to call them demons in like the church sense. Demonic, whatever. Like if somebody's messing around with something and they don't know what they're doing or they don't respect it enough to do it carefully and to put down the proper, I'll say, protections and things, you never know what you're going to invite in. You know? Is it Satan and his minions? Probably not. But who fucking knows? You know? And it could, like, also, it could just be like a ghost playing a practical joke. Like, look at how you controlled that little girl. You know? Not to make also, light of what was a terrifying situation for an entire family. But, you know.
Well, there's also the theory of teenage girls. And there were two of them in the same room. And that...
Poltergeists?
Yeah.
The thing with poltergeist activity, though, is it's usually non-corporeal. Like, it's not, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't hear very many poltergeist stories that involve the teenage girl doing the things.
Oh, yeah.
It's like cabinet door slamming on their own, like stuff like that.
Yeah, my thoughts. I don't know if it's gonna upset this person or not, but I'm just gonna say it. I think it's just mental health. I know the people, and I think it's a mental health issue.
If it was claimed that she took some green acid.
Yeah.
I mean, thinking about what people act like when they're on certain types of controlled substances.
Right.
Like, the bath salts thing was a big deal a couple years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, there was that story. I don't know if this is true. I'm not going to get on my phone and Google it. But I remember hearing about a guy that was, like, eating another guy's face.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he was on bath salts.
Yeah.
He got so strung out, he attacked a guy and was eating his face.
Yeah.
Apparently. So. And
there's, like, others, like, I've heard other really horrific stories of people messing around with drugs and doing too much and, like, murdering people and like eating, like, it's not, I don't want to get too grisly. That's not what this podcast is about. This is not true crime or any of that, but like, yeah, like certain controlled substances,
So if you're gonna do drugs, do them in a safe place, do them
with safe people,
and
don't just take drugs off of random people.
Yeah, like know what you're consuming.
Yeah. Like, make sure your weed isn't, and that's not like a huge concern nowadays. I don't like the term weed either. I think it's disrespectful. Cannabis is my preferred term, but like back in the day, you'd hear stories of kids getting pot that was laced with like rat poison and shit, Know where your shit's coming from. I think that it could have been a combination of factors: mental health, controlled substances.
I think that's what it was, but I mean,
I don't know. You know me. I'm not. I really fucking hate it when we're watching like Ghost Adventures. First of all, don't get me started. But they're like the number one thing that they do is they talk about like satanic rituals and witches, and it's like, first of all, do you know anything about Satanism as a religion? Chances are no.
No.
Do you know anything about witchcraft as a spiritual practice or a religion? Probably not. And whatever you do know is most likely propaganda taught to you by your church elders in more of like a cautionary tale type, like modern urban legends, not even urban legends, just like legends and fairy tales. A lot of them, like Hansel and Gretel. It was told to children to not get them to go wander off in the woods and get lost.
Yeah.
Because the witch might eat you. Krampus. On all of those Christmas time, like demon monsters.
The Germans had crazy amount of tales.
It was
to keep their children
not just
in line.
The Germans, the Norse, the Celts, they all, like all cultures. It was used as a tool before the Bible. These stories were used as tools to control people, children, just people in general, because, if you stick your toe out of line, Krampus is going to come and get you and stuff you full of straw or whatever. I think I'm mixing up multiple. Yeah. But you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know. And I'm outing myself for the very first time, hello, on the podcast, as a witch, someone who identifies as a practicing witch, it really annoys me when people are like, oh, they looked at a witchcraft book. And it's like,
you might want to specify what you do, because you don't do spells and shit like that, and you don't. Well, can you explain yourself? I know what you do. You don't hex people and all that shit.
I'm not above it. If somebody deserves it, I fucking will. Yeah. It's hard to explain because I think of myself as someone who's in it. It's really hard for me to describe it to people outside of it. Everything has energy. everything. Rocks, crystals, plants, animals. And the farther back you go, you know, our ancestors kind of prescribed certain meanings to things, whether you call them omens, whatever. A lot of people call them correspondences now. Like mint is associated with the element of air, which is associated with the thoughts and like logic and reason. Right. And water is like the emotions, and fire is like inspiration and creativity, and earth is, you know, like grounding the physical realm, your whatever, right. You know. So I would say that I work with the elements in various different ways through various different disciplines,
right,
to mostly self-development is what I like, to simplify it in its most basic form. It's all like, how can I be a better person? I don't know. I'm also I'm really outing myself here. I also practice paganism as a method of spirituality. So my witchcraft and my paganism, for me, are tied together. But for a lot of people, they're either a pagan or they're a witch, not both. Like Wiccans are technically both most of the time. I'm not a Wiccan. But that's kind of like your pretty basic starting off point when you're researching earth-based spirituality is really what I would call it. And I know this sounds all nuts and like crazy and whatever, but I mean, it's what works for me. It's what feels good to me. I've researched a lot of different religions. I spent 21 years as a self-proclaimed Christian. Right. I've been saved. I've rededicated myself multiple times. I've been baptized. And while I have no qualms with Jesus or Yeshua or whatever you want to call him, I take issue a lot with what the religion that he started has become, right, modern day.
Yeah, when he... Well,
like, this is getting into a whole theological...
Yeah. Supposedly, when if there was a Jesus, when he started it, it was about, like, helping people.
It was an anti-government cult.
Basically.
At its most basic, like, to boil it down and to, like, water it down to, like, the most basic. It was an anti-government, anti-Rome cult. The Bible, the New Testament, or mostly Revelation specifically, is a metaphor about the Emperor Nero. Right. When Jesus, you know, when they talk about the end of times, it's the end of Roman rule in Israel. Is right. What it is. Like, it's an anti-government cult that was a Jewish cult. They were if you walked up to a 1st century or 2nd century or 3rd century Christian and you asked them what religion they practiced, they would probably say they were a Christian, right, maybe, but there would also be a lot of elements, mostly of Judaism. Yeah. They practiced all the same holiday, like the special days, all of that. And I'm not Jewish. I don't know very much about the Jewish religion, so I don't want to like put my foot in my mouth too much, but that's what Christianity started out as, was just like a branch off of Judaism. There's a lot of speculation, and I will say it is speculation, theorization that Jesus was a member of the Sons of Light, which, if anyone knows anything about Sons of Light, they were the group that committed mass suicide on the Mount of Masada, like all that he prescribed to that ideology. And that's where Christianity kind of started out as. And so now to see where it has kind of devolved into this, what it is today, it's just interesting. The more history you know about the religion. Yeah. And I'm not trying to offend anybody. This is just, my personal experience from my research. And I've done a lot of research, and I continue to do a lot of research on it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good lesson to learn. If you want to do something, research it before you dive head first onto a rock and just go into it. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, when I discovered witchcraft, as a tool, because that's what it is. It is a tool. I cast spells the same way Christians pray. I mean, for me, casting a spell is essentially a prayer. That's a better way of saying it. When I found witchcraft, I was just putzing around on Pinterest, and I saw somebody pin something about you write a wish on a bay leaf and you burn it.
Yeah.
And that was the graphic on Pinterest, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I clicked on the pin, and it took me to like this witchcraft blog, and I was like, if this person knew what they pinned, would they have pinned it? Probably not. But I was like, that's so interesting. And I remember sitting down at Wendy's with you,
Yeah.
talking about, I was like, I think I want to be a witch.
Yeah.
And I found paganism through, I finally decided, I was like, I really don't identify with any of what modern Christianity is, but I don't want to be an atheist.
Right.
What religions are out there? And I literally went on Google and I looked up, like, what religion am I? I Googled that. And a quiz came up, and so I took the quiz, and it brought up Unitarian Universalism. I had never heard of that before, so I go on YouTube and I type in Unitarian Universalism, and this one specific creator's video popped up that this person happens to be a witch and a pagan. And they were talking, it was like a vlog where they were talking about, I went to church at the UU church, and kind of talking about Unitarian Universalism. And I watched some information from the church as well. And I was like, well, that's interesting, but that's not like enough. So then I went back to the original video that I saw of the witch, and I started watching more of their content and really diving into like witchcraft and paganism, and I bought books and did research, and then just kind of was like, this is what feels right for me. I don't feel any resistance, and I know a lot of people are going to be like, well, that's just the devil opening the door, and I don't need to be saved. I'm very well aware of the choices that I make. I'm almost 32 years old. Please don't fill our inbox with like pleading me to return to Jesus. Again, I have no issues with him. In fact, I've been talking with him a lot lately, but not in the same way.
Yep.
So, I don't know.
All right. Sorry.
You might want to cut all that. I don't know if I
was going to say sorry, not sorry. We're basically here to just talk to you guys. If we rant, we rant.
If we out ourselves,
it's whatever. I'm sure somebody will turn it off before half of this. Anyways. So,
I can only pray.
Anyways, we'll just end it there.
You don't have anything else?
Not really. You covered it.
I'm just,
I mean, I'm still learning what I'm into. I don't believe that, people go to heaven, people go to hell. I'm like, if you're bad, then maybe you have your own hell to deal with whenever you die.
Yeah.
And if you are good, you have your own heaven. Like, I think like
that it's personalized to the individual.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know.
There's always an element. I would never proclaim that what I believe is the truth. It might be what's true for me today, but what's true for me today might not be true for me tomorrow. Right. I always lead my philosophy with life is I might be right, I might be wrong. So there's like I used to call myself an agnostic, pantheist, pagan. You can Google what that means if you want to.
Anyways, I'll end with this. Believe what you want to believe. Don't force it down any other people's throats. Let people believe what they want, and just be spiritual and love each other, I guess.
Make love, not war.
Exactly.
No, and I don't know. I feel like I could go on and on and on some more.
Yeah, we're not going to go on and on. So
just do what feels good for you and your soul. Like if Christianity is your cup of tea and that's your truth, I love that. Like when people are so like on fire for what they believe, I love that for them until they start proselytizing. And then I'm like, you lost me.
And I believe that all religion is a cult. Because if you define a cult, basically...
Look up the bite model.
Yeah, it's... Christianity is a cult. It's all a cult. I mean, you got this leader...
Organized religion with set rules.
Yes. I mean, sometimes it's not a bad thing.
No.
But, you know, it's...
As long as you're not... There's a saying in Wicca, which again, I'm not Wiccan... And it harm none, do what ye will. You know, as long as you're not harming anyone else, do what lights you up. If you want to be, don't be a Scientologist. Just don't be a Scientologist.
Just don't be a Scientologist. Anyways, enough of that. It's whatever you want to do. Whatever you want to do. It's this day and age. You do not have to be defined by your religion. I'm just going to say that. So, let's end the episode.
Okay.
If you have any stories or requests of anything you want to hear about, or if you know anyone who does, please email us at afraidishpodcast@gmail.com, Instagram and Facebook at afraidishpodcast.
If you want to email us and tell me what a sinner I am and that I'm going to hell and that I'm going to lead my children down the wrong road and that blah, 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 write it to this email address, www.shoveitupyourbutt.com.
Yeah, we let our kids believe what they want.
They can ask us questions about anything. Keegan asks us questions about church.
He's starting to read books about, what's the book you gave him?
It's called Circle Round. It's very much 1980s Wiccan goddess religion, but I figured it was kind of a good framework.
Yeah. I mean, if he wants
to
grow up and be a Christian, that's fine. I mean...
Yeah, as long as he's not an asshole about it.
Yeah.
If he wants to be Muslim, if he wants to be whatever... Yeah. That's the beautiful thing, is there's so many religions out there. One of my favorite quotes in the entire world is a Chinese proverb. And it says, there are many paths up the mountain, but the view from the top is the same. And I think that is so beautiful. There's no wrong way to get to your destination. In the end, we're all going to die.
Yeah, pretty much.
Just enjoy life.
Yeah. Visit the website at afraid-ishpodcast.com, which I want to try to update it. It's just been blah.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to work in, hopefully, something that looks good.
Post a little blog when you post an episode, you know.
I need to do the blogging, yeah.
It doesn't have to be a word-for-word breakdown of the episode, but little teasers here and there, you know.
Yeah, and
Ashley outs herself as a witch, and we talk about Native American ritual ground.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, all the links will be in the show notes, and pictures and stuff will be on social media. Rate and review on Apple Podcasts, and rate on Spotify.
If you don't give us 5 stars, I'll curse you.
Oh.
I'm just kidding. I'm so just kidding.
Anyways.
That's not a curseable offense.
No. And as always, don't be afraid of the dark.
Be afraid-ish of what's in it.
Bye.
Bye!